expect them to use it to improve their industry's performance. Government, however, can and will help to influence these matters by policy on public sector purchasing and on research and development. And fifth, we must adapt to today's markets. We've recognized fully the problems of Britain's declining industries and those who work in them. Industries which have similar problems in most of the older industrialized countries. These adjustments cannot take place overnight, whether in steel, shipbuilding or railways. But those...
Well, order. I think it's very unfair of honourable gentlemen. Order, no. Nobody should have to fight for a hearing in this place. Order. Prime Minister.
The adjustments, whether in steel or shipbuilding, have to be made, and the longer they're delayed, the more they tie up resources which could be deployed in new ventures. But we mustn't flinch from the realities. It's easy for politicians to win applause by postponing the day of reckoning. But that is only self-indulgence and deceit. It is what the opposition practiced with relation to these industries in the past. The Right Honourable Gentleman referred to the present dispute in British Steel. It shows just what happens when people refuse to face the facts. The last government poured taxpayers' money into British Steel Corporation to cover their losses. Well over £1,000 million for that purpose over the 5 years they were in office. This year, even before the strike, British Steel Corporation were heading for a loss of over £300 million, and that this government was prepared to finance. But we're not prepared to go on funding losses in 1980-81. In May 1978, the Right Honourable Member for Chesterfield endorsed the British Steel Corporation's aim of breaking even by 1979-80, this financial year. But his Right Honourable friend now wants us to go on for providing for losses, not just this year, but next year as well, and no doubt the year after that and the year after that. British Steel Corporation have offered a minimum of 14.4% in return for agreements on productivity. They say there is scope for considerably more for those who want to earn it. The fact is the dispute could end tomorrow on the basis of a substantial pay settlement for the steel workers. Now, the Right Honourable Gentleman, Mr. Speaker, put forward some proposals about what ACAS could do. The truth is that ACAS already have powers to appoint a conciliator, a mediator, or an arbitrator with the consent of both parties. They do not need these powers. They already have them, and they could do them. And British Steel Corporation has said, that they would have either a mediator or an arbitrator, but the trade unions have refused it. That is the position. All of the powers are, in fact, already there. They could be used, but it is the trade unions who will not, in fact, use them, even though the members of the ISTC went out on strike without a ballot and without strike pay, and have now been out for some 9 weeks and have been without good pay packets for that time, and could have had increased pay packets for that time. Failure to reach a settlement can mean only two things: continued loss of earnings for steel workers and their families, and a worse prospect for the industry. The longer the strike continues, the harder it will be for British Steel Corporation to get their business back and to achieve profitability, and the risk of greater redundancies will grow. But I stress, we cannot hand over more taxpayers' money to an industry where earnings are already well above the national average and which has already received so much. We recognise the special problems which closures and redundancies are going to cause, especially in Wales. And that's why the British Steel Corporation have allocated a substantial sum for redundancy payments out of the £450 million cash limit for next year. And that's why my Right Honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Wales, announced on the 4th of February the allocation of an additional £48 million to be spent over the next 2 years in the areas affected by the rundowns at Llanwern and Port Talbot. At a time when we're having to cut public spending, the allocation of these funds on top of what would otherwise have been available to the Welsh Office is a clear sign of our determination to take effective action. Mr. Speaker, I spoke earlier about the wish of the British people last May for a new start and for a government prepared to tackle the country's problems. We've been in power for less than 10 months, but already we've been having to take hard decisions which the Right Honourable Gentleman could not or would not face. Decisions to cut their irresponsibly inflated spending plans and to try to give the taxpayer and ratepayer value for money. Decisions to restore incentives by getting personal taxes down. Decisions to enable council house tenants to become homeowners and to give a charter of rights to remaining tenants. Decisions to reduce waste in the public service. Decisions to honour our defence obligations to our own people and to our allies. Decisions to provide the British people with better protection against violent crime at home. Decisions to restore confidence abroad, not only in our currency, but in Britain as an influence in the world. All these things we were pledged to do, and with all of them we've made a firm start and achieved a good measure of success. Despite the need to retrench, we made last year the biggest ever increase in pensions and social security benefits. We've taken special steps to help the disabled, the one-parent families and war widows. We've made the biggest ever cuts in personal taxes, benefiting all taxpayers, increasing allowances to double what was needed to offset the previous year's inflation. And we're doing pretty well abroad. The pound is a strong currency, free of exchange controls for the first time in 40 years. If in 1975, after its first 10 months, the Labour government could have pointed to a record of achievement even remotely comparable with this, they would have been boasting. As it were, they were still floundering amid policies already doomed to failure. We're facing Britain's long-standing and deep-rooted problems with firmness and realism, which is exactly what the British people want. Attitudes are changing, as we have seen at Sheerness, at Hadfields, at British Leyland, and in South Wales. And the mode of realism is spreading fast. Perhaps it will never spread to the opposition, which is why the country finally rejected the policies of yesterday at the election. And that's why I ask the House today to reject decisively their motion, thereby expressing confidence in Her Majesty's government.